All right, great. Hey guys, good evening. Welcome to the first NILOA Directors Call. Uh, my name is PJ Colello. I want to welcome you all. I want to thank Tom Abbott and Tom Sutton for agreeing to prepare and present at the 4 calls that we've set up. This is part of NILOA's renewed commitment to training and education of our membership, and we hope this helps the whole group and also provides another format with which Tom and TA can get information to all of us. And as we have put in our mailings, this will be recorded and then online on the website for guys to download, log in, listen to, or watch. There is a question, a place for you to type in questions. I will be reading those questions. If we get a couple of questions that are similar to each other, or there's something that people don't understand, I will interrupt TA and Tom and chime in. It would not be my intention to do so on just a one-off. We will print out all of the questions at the end, and they will have them printed. So if there's a way for them to review them, and if they've got some things that they specifically want to address, then we'll add those to the NILOA forum, and they'll be addressed in that format. Lastly, I would really like to thank Charlie Obermeyer from US Lacrosse for agreeing to partner with us on this, and we hope that this is just one first step in really strengthening that partnership between NILOA and US Lacrosse. There's a lot of great things that we could and should be doing together. So without further ado, TA and Tom Sutton, the NILOA Director Call.
All right. Thanks, PJ. Tommy, you're on, right?
Yep, I'm on.
Okay. Very good. Hey, the agenda's up on the screen. I hope everybody can see it. I know we've tested it 3 or 4 times today, so we're pretty confident everybody's on and can see what we're going to discuss. Just run down through the agenda. We're going to talk about the purpose of the calls, game reports, our forum that has seemed to be a big success. We're going to talk about warding. We've got a lot of answers about warding. And we're going to talk about a goal, no goal, a dive situation, a lean-in situation, and hopefully give you some example, a good example of what we consider not a dive. And then we are going to talk face-offs a little bit. So as we go through the slides, that's the agenda for tonight. I do want to just mention, you know, as I put on in the forum, with any memo that comes from me, it's an internal memo. It's intended to stay in the officiating society, not shared with coaches. If something is to be shared with the coaches, that is coming directly from Tom Abbott. All right, anything we discuss on this call, any internal memo, as I said, that we put out through NILOA.net stays within the officials organization. We aren't changing any rules by what we're putting out. You know, Tommy Abbott and I talk constantly about, you know, questions that are sent in and whether we can answer it. It's got to go to the NCAA. So you can have confidence that anything that we're putting internally does not have to go to the NCAA for additional ruling. It's just clarification. So please don't, you know, go up to the coach and say, hey, on the call the other night, this was said. All right, that's not the intent. The intent is just to educate and train and clarify certain situations. So we're also going to be compiling a list. We do it probably on a daily basis, Tommy and I do, of things that we're probably going to discuss on the next call. So if there is an item you want to possibly have discussed, I would encourage you guys to go to the forum and put that question in, or as PJ mentioned earlier, you can go ahead and write a question tonight if you have an issue that's burning for the next go. All right. You know, I will start by saying the forum is an excellent tool to get your concerns out there and answered. I would say probably well over 95% of the questions have been answered. There's some that I didn't intentionally answer because they're either going back through Tommy Abbott to the NCAA for additional ruling or a possible rule change that won't happen till next year. But once that's confirmed, then all the answers will be updated on the forum. But I think 95% or more have been answered. We try to do it in a timely fashion through the committee that has been put together. So it is working, that's for sure. All right, game reports. We've had a couple issues with game reports. We just want to make sure that everybody knows that the referee is required to put a game report in. Unfortunately, we've had some situations where we've had unusual circumstances checked. If you're doing a game report on ZebraWeb, unusual circumstances checked, and the report wasn't put in for better than 8 or 9 days after the game. I received a comment about that from one of the assistant commissioners of a league, stating this is kind of unacceptable. We've already played another game. If you guys want us to do something about it, the reports need to be filed in a timely manner. And the conferences, and Tommy Abbott can attest to this, really do want to take discipline to the next level. So if it's justified, they will handle the discipline. And from all indications that Kevin O'Leary and I've had, they would go above and beyond what we would even recommend. So we need to get the game reports in, especially if there's an unusual circumstance. We set a timeline of 36 hours from the game that report's got to be in if you're going to check unusual circumstance. Tommy, you got anything to add with game reports?
Just I want to let the guys know that I know that they're the 4 RAs and myself, along with Kevin O'Leary, basically have every box checked so that every single game report comes to us, regardless of what division it's in or where the game is being played. So my email obviously gets lit up every day with all kinds of stuff. But I can tell you, I can reassure you that I actually do read and look at every single one that comes across my email box. So if there's something there that's important for you to discuss or to make sure someone knows about, repeated issues with field markings or any of that stuff, our assigners and our RAs and myself and Kevin will make sure that stuff gets to the right place. We're trying to do this obviously better than the old system with USILA, and conferences do have a part in it, and they do want the information so that they can correct it for us.
Thanks, Tommy. And just so you know, everybody knows on the phone, this does apply to the MCLA side also. Bob Duggan requires game reports to be filed, so we're trying to use the same philosophy, for MCLA and MLAX OG games. All right. I talked about the forum a little bit. I think we're off to a good start. I know we got 3 pages of questions, probably about almost 30 questions. Well, it's probably more than that, almost 40 questions. I talked about the time frame for answers. That's why some of them take longer. Some of them are answered right away. From the questions that you guys submitted, which is really good, we've got a couple of proposals going to the NCAA for additional rulings. I know Tommy has sent at least one to Willie Scroggs, and I've got to do another one that came from the question and send it to Tommy. So what I encourage you, Tommy Abbott's got a lot to do. He doesn't need to be bogged down by questions that should be answered through our group. So if you keep using the forum, you don't have to send them to Tommy Abbott. I don't want his inbox any fuller than what it is. he's got enough to worry about other than answering questions like that. So you can get your questions answered through the forum, and that is our avenue to do that. I will say it's difficult to answer all the questions 100% correctly. We kicked that around to a group of 6 people or so, and it's amazing. Somehow we all have different answers, and we have to come back and get on a call or email back and forth until we agree on what the correct answer is. So, there is a possibility. I'm just putting this out there. If you see a memo come out that says upon further review, that's probably an indication that we answered something on the forum that we wanted to reconsider. It happens. We're going to try not to let it happen. But if that's the case, we will get it corrected. One thing we don't want to get into is, we don't want to make the forum he said, she said type platform. We just want it educational and benefit all the members. We don't want, I told you that was the right answer type stuff going back and forth, or, you put a question on the forum and then you send it to Tommy Abbott, which I just mentioned not to do, to see if you get a different answer or not. So just make sure you put it in the forum. We'll get it. If it's something we can't answer or something we can't change, believe me, Tommy Abbott will know about it from me. Tom, you got anything to add about that? I mean, I'd probably
No,
not.
I think Tommy, you done a good job with it. I think it's important that you guys keep using the forum because there are questions. I mean, we all know that the rule book's in black and white, but everything is gray. And there's a lot of stuff out there that happens that can actually help other officials just by talking about things. So first thing you do when you see something is go to the rule book, see if you can find a spot for it, because I know the rule book's not perfect. We find a lot of loopholes on a lot of stuff, and things are not 100% correct all the time. But the forum is the place to do it, and we'll certainly get back to you as best we can. And Tom and I do talk all the time about rules issues and how a play should be called. So just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll come out of this thing pretty well. I think this is a really good place to do it. The forum is a great spot to do it.
All right. As I mentioned, we received a lot of questions pertaining to awarding, and we've come to the conclusion that there's a lot of misconception about what is award, when can award be called, when can it be called, when shouldn't be called, when, so we're going to try to work through this tonight in a relatively quick manner. Again, we see it all the time where a person has 2 hands on a stick, and it looks bad, right? It looks bad when he throws his forearm or his elbow up into the defender. But according to the rule book, it's with the free hand. So Tommy and I have talked about this. We've gone through the rule book many times, and we've come to the conclusion that there's no way a person can be called for awarding if he has 2 hands on his stick. It may not look good, like we said. He's going to fling the elbow out, fling the forearm out, but as long as he's got 2 hands on the stick, we're considering that no way to be awarded. The only thing I can add,
let me add something, Tommy, just real quick. We're going to show you a film clip here in a little bit. That's a real good one for this particular rule. And the idea here is we've always had, in the history of lacrosse, we've had big guys, little guys, and that's part of what Tom's going to talk about next. But coaches are really in tune with high hits and things of that nature and over-aggressive play. But the kicker here is warding off. Warding off is an issue with 2 hands. If you got 2 hands on the stick, you can't be called for it. It could escalate to to something more than that if he leads with his head, but shoulder and body is okay. And you'll see it in this film clip coming up next.
And we also, we've had a few college players, probably started with possibly Miles Jones, Perkovich, the bigger midfielders, basically. Like Tommy said, big against small. Well, if you think about it, it's no different than a big defenseman and a small attackman, right? That the bigger defenseman is usually going to control the body of the smaller attackman. The offensive player has every right to do everything legal as a defensive player does. In other words, make body contact as long as it's legal. Doesn't lead with the head. It's between on the shoulder, above the waist, below the shoulder, above the waist. He has the same opportunity to do that as a defenseman does. So you got to put that in your mind as you're seeing these plays and this clip that we're going to show you. You got to really make that determination. Now, if he leads with his head, it's easy, right? Spearing, and we need to call that. We don't want to pass on that. But it looks like a pretty severe body check sometimes, I would call it, for these big guys going into the smaller midfielders. But it is totally legal as long as delivered in any legal manner of any body check that a defenseman can throw. So we're going to go ahead and play this clip.
Dangerous pass, but they get it. Here comes Army. Sims knocks it in. Oh, fires! And he scored! He scored! Army wins it!
As you can see, that was a big offensive midfielder initiating body contact, but the body contact was initiated with the shoulder to well below the shoulder of his defender. And what he does that for is to create shooting space, of course. He needs to get his hands free. And he's more than legally has the right to do that by that play that we just saw. As you can see, it made pretty good separation, and it probably doesn't look good, but there's nothing illegal about that offensive player's movement there. Tommy, got anything to add?
No, I think, Tommy, other than the fact that when this occurred last year, there were a lot of questions that came up with regarding to warding off. It's not a ward because he's got two hands on the stick, and it's basically big guy against a little guy. The NCAA committee has discussed this issue. They will probably continue to discuss this issue because of the way players are playing a little more prevalent at it now than they used to, possibly because of the way the stick depth is and the way players can control the ball now, much different than they could back when the rule was written. But so the committee is definitely looking at it. They have discussed it in the past. It's on their agenda again for next August. But at the moment, it still says two hands on the stick is legal. So it's a legal play in lacrosse as of today.
Very good. All right. Now the topic everybody loves, right? Dive, no dive, good goal, no goal. It's the toughest call that we have to make. There's no doubt about it. The play around the crease happens so fast. Are we lucky to get it right? Probably are. We don't have the privilege of having replayed all these games. The NFL can't even make a call on their own without going to replay now. So I hope it doesn't come to that in our sport. But the crease call is by far the toughest one we have to make. Tommy and Abbott and I have looked at clips, and it's tough. It's tough to determine sometimes whether it's a dive or not, even after looking at the clip. So you got to do your best. You're gonna have to make a call, get with your partner, and make sure you try to make the best call you can. When you're talking about whether it's a dive or what I would like to call a lean in or a fall in, I think one thing you can do is use the analogy that we tried to teach as far as NFL wide receiver on the sideline catching a pass and trying to keep his toes in bounds. He's not going to always have his toes in contact with the field, right? But he's also not launching himself at his own volition over the edge of the sideline. So if you can think of that play where wide receiver is tippy-toeing the sidelines, dragging his feet, trying to stay grounded, as you know, we've used the term grounded many times in the presentations in the clinics and everything else. If we can take that analogy and apply it to a dive play in lacrosse, I think we'd probably get it right more times than we would get it wrong. So just try to think of that, be prepared for when it's going to happen. Try to put that in the back of your mind and make a call based on that kind of analogy. We're going to watch a clip here. Again, it was a forum question. The guy in the forum thought it was a dive, and you know, as we go through the clip, I'm just going to let the clip play, then we're going to come back and talk about it. So we'll go ahead and play the clip.
Nanticoke cannot shake Bomberry. Nanticoke puts his shoulder down, shoots, and scores! How do you stop that?
What a goal. I mean, that's just the second time today, but I mean, he's proving how he just knows how to use his size and strength, getting past another Syracuse defender. Nothing Bomberry can really do about that. Trying to use the crease as an extra defender. Need more than that. When you're putting one guy
and see them on the site. We're taking this whole thing and packaging it up and posting it on the site for later. Okay?
Okay, thanks, BJ. That's good to know. You know, we understand we're going to have some technical difficulties along the way. This is the first shot at what we're doing, and bear with us. And like BJ says, it'll be available to everybody. But it's unfortunate everybody couldn't see the clip. There's a couple things that you know, I want to talk about the clip. If you think of, and hopefully you could see where the arrow was pointing to the feet, that looked like they were grounded or pretty damn close to grounded to me, as the guy leaned into the crease, adjusted his stick, and shot the ball in the net. A couple things with the whole entire play that you need to consider. That ball's got to be in the net before any part of his body hits the crease, the goalie, or the goal post, or the netting. So there's a lot to look at. Those four things are enough to look at in itself without worrying about being grounded and everything else. But as you see in the clip, the two referees on the game came in. There's no hurry to make that call. You blow the whistle, kill the play, and then get together, have a short discussion, and then signal a goal and go on. So I think the play, and Tommy was at the game. He witnessed it live. He witnessed it on the replay that unfortunately we don't get to watch on the screen. And then, of course, in this clip. And I think we're all in agreement that that's a good goal. It's a grounded type of goal. If you think about it, you know, the question on the forum was, well, he thought he dove. Well, the crease is 18 feet in diameter. So you got a 6-foot goal in the middle of it, leaves 6 foot on each side. If that guy dove on his own volition, where he left from was directly parallel with the goal, right at the goal line, he would have hit the net with some due force. There's no way a 6-foot guy is going to be able to dive at that angle and miss the goal. So that was another indication that the guy just fell in. Tom, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I do. There's some important other aspects about this goal. I mean, we've seen a lot of plays like this over the last few years. I don't have as many films this year as I have in previous years. But what I like about this film clip is the officials were in the best position that they could be in to view the play, which is what I've talked about for a couple of years now. We all know what our positions are, lead, single, trail, whatever, and what our responsibilities are, but they anticipated the play and were in really good shape to be able to visualize this play, and we're pretty close to the crease area when it happened. This kid's a big, strong player that we're looking at here, and it was a great move on his part. Trust me, you're going to see more of them like this down the road, not only from him, but from some other players that are out there. But I really like the position that the two officials were in. I like the fact that they got together and they talked about it and just made their decision and came up together with signals that were the same. I had seen some other clips that coaches have sent me. Like I said, I'm not getting too many of them this year, but there have been a couple, and that was not the case in some of the other film clips that I saw. It drives coaches nuts that we signal a goal and then wave it off. That we're not in to the best spot that we can be in when we need to observe a play. So those are the things that they look at as well, and they get to look at it and slow it down in slow motion and zoom in on it, unlike what we can do in the millisecond that we have to actually observe the play. So this is a good example of guys working well, getting the right position, and doing what they need to do to make the right call. And those are the things that are important when we're out there trying to sell a call and making sure that it's right.
TA, to your point, Tom Sutton, you were talking about the distances, and a bunch of people just questioned, now that you've talked about the size of the crease, the size of the goal, and the size of the player, would you mind showing the clip again? Because they weren't looking at what you were just describing when you played it the first time.
Yeah.
Would you mind showing the clip to everybody again?
No problem. That's a good point. So I won't be able to talk during it, and
Yeah.
Nanticoke cannot shake Bomberry. Nanticoke puts his shoulder down, shoots, and scores! How do you stop that?
What a goal. I mean, that's just the second time today, but I mean, he's proving how he just knows how to use his size and strength, getting past another Syracuse defender. Nothing Bomberry can really do about that. Trying to use the crease as an extra defender. Need more than that. When you're putting one guy
the cage and he's moving in at that same time that the player's making that move to the cage. The single side official saw the dodge, started to make his move to come in closer because it was obvious that they were going to have a play that was going to be difficult to referee and tough to see. They both anticipated it well. They didn't come in too soon, which is always an issue. If we get in too far too soon, they could make another pass, do something different, and now we're in the way. But the unobstructed view by the lead official and the fact that they both were coming in was really good. It was really well done, and I think it's really what we need to aspire to. Those types of plays in big games are really what the focus is, and these kids really can control the ball a lot better than they used to. And it's definitely, Tommy said it earlier, it's definitely the toughest play that we have to referee by far.
The unfortunate thing, Tommy, go ahead, DJ.
I was just going to say, a question was asked regarding what are the areas of responsibility, just if you could review the areas of responsibility for lead and crease. We're lead and crease in that situation, looking at the same thing, the same play. How do they divvy up their responsibilities in that sequence?
Yep. I mean, it comes down to doing the best you can, but every time I go into a game, in my pregame, I'm talking about if the player's coming toward you, you've got to see if he starts in the crease or not. So you got the feet in the crease. Hopefully the guy that the play is coming from is going to have the push or any foul from behind. That is in the ideal world. right? Sometimes it doesn't work out that way. You're screened, but you need to try to put in context that the ball is coming to you. You've got the feet on the crease, contact with the goaltender, or anything, contacting the crease. And hopefully the single side guy in this case, because the ball was coming from him, has a foul and can help with the discussion about the feet being grounded, etc. So that's kind of in the nutshell what we're looking for around the crease. Again, that's the ideal situation. You don't run into that too often, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, there's one other guy we're forgetting about. Trail's got the bigger picture of everything. He can also help on this play as well. And when we went through this earlier today to look at this play before we put it on tonight's call, the single side did come in and was watching for foul, and we decided on the call talking about it that there really was an attempt to try and knock the player sideways, but actually there was really no contact on a push at all. The player technically leaned right in himself and made this entire play without too much contact from a defender who was behind him.
Yep, and we mentioned how difficult it is to make these crease calls. And Tommy, can you share? Everybody sees the scores, but 3/4 of the games this weekend were 1-goal games or overtime, and the goal is utmost important to the outcome of these games because they're so close.
Yeah, I can talk about that briefly, Tommy. I was sitting in the press box at the opposite end of the field from where this goal took place. I thought that it was the right call as soon as I saw it. I watched the replay. And then as soon as we got settled in and started to go for the next face-off, I went back to my computer and my iPad and checked the scores, and literally 70% of the games were within 1 goal at that point, whether they were finished or whether they were still in the third or fourth quarter. But Tommy's right. These types of plays are important. They are involved in every game, and we need to do the best job we can to make the calls that we need to make by getting in the right spots.
Yeah, and I think that's, very important to make sure you're there, like Tommy said, in the spots. These are the plays that are going to create the most controversy, the most scrutiny for us, and the better we can do with them, the better we'll all be. And we understand it's tough. It's a tough goal. All right, moving on. We're going to talk a little bit about face-offs. I think there's a new memo that was posted just prior to this call. It's, again, it's internal to us, and it needs to stay between us. Tommy, you want to talk about the face-off in general and the feedback you've been getting? Because I think it's important for these guys. They hear that it's going pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that the face-off is in a far better spot than it was a few years ago. The rules committee made some changes to take the carrying of the ball in the back of the stick out of the game. We made some other adjustments to try and get the sticks further apart and further to the left to allow for more cleaner face-offs. The entire intent of the rules committee during this time frame was to allow the ball to get out and create some wing play and some ground balls, which has definitely occurred, but the negative side is sometimes we're getting run over. So keep that in mind, that you need to make sure and be aware of where those wing guys are all the time. That was part of my memo the other day. But I think the overall feeling from everyone that I've talked to is that we're in a far better place than we were just a year or two ago. And that's a good trend to be on, and it speaks volumes about how we're officiating that play right now. Go ahead, Tommy.
Which is good because like Tommy said, 2 years ago they weren't happy the way we officiated. We've made some changes. We put a lot of education out about the face-off. I think every year I put a memo out pertaining to the face-off, and I think it's working. We just need to keep up the good work. There's a couple things that we're going to talk about on the next slide that we do still need to improve. But just a little clarification. Tommy, in his email of Saturday, I believe, no, Friday it was, tried to talk about reclamping, et cetera, and like I said before, it's tough to write a memo so everybody can understand, and we're just going to try to clarify some of the points that was in Tommy's that were in Tommy's memo. And basically, what he was trying to say is, again, we need to move the ball, keep the ball moving, and it revolved around a reclamp or a replunge during the face-off. And there's nothing in the rule book, as we all know, that prevents a second plunge or a second clamp, as long as they are still in the face-off position, the battling position, combat position, whatever you want to call it, combating position, whatever you want to call it. The ball is right there within that little circle that we use imaginary for our violation or no violation. It's right there between the two players yet. It hasn't moved out. The players haven't moved out. The guy plunged it, fell back out of the stick. He can do it real quick again and try to move it. He still got to get rid of it in that one step, right? So we're talking about a play that the face-off guys basically haven't moved, right, Tommy, is what we're saying. That's the only time they can do that twice. All right. Once the ball moves away, these guys are now field players, a normal field player. And we all know that it is illegal to pick up a ground ball on the field to play using the plunge technique. So if that ball is moved out of that face-off area, there's even though they're face-off men, they cannot plunge. They're now normal field players. They can't plunge. If they clamp outside there, what's the rule book say about a clamp? To pick up a ball, it's got to be a clamp and almost a continuous motion by rule to be legal. So he also can't turn and reclamp the ball and hold the ball for any period of time. He's got the purpose of the clamp at that point is to pick up the ball. So it's got to be clamp, scoop, and rake through it. That's about the only thing that's legal. And that's what Tommy was trying to get at the memo. And like I said, it's difficult to write a memo for everybody to understand without questions. So we hope that kind of cleared that memo up. But again, they become regular field players once that's out of there. So I just want to talk a little bit about the memo that's posted and what's in it. It's got a video attached. We decided not to show the video here. We're trying to keep this call between 30 and 45 minutes. We've already been on for 44 minutes or so. So we didn't want to make it any longer. But there's a good video clip, 3 clips of the face-off. And even though we're refereeing the face-off much better, there's still some room for improvement. And what is in that clip is called the pitchfork move. And we're seeing that more and more from the face-off person that feels he's lost a draw or is going to lose the draw. And what it amounts to is his opponent will rake the ball, just about probably have control of it, but they're still in the face-off position. And the guy is going to lose it, reaches up and hooks the elbow, hooks it on the arm or anywhere else on the body, just to slow that guy down from raking and scooping before his wing guy can get there. All right, so that the intent of that is not to allow the opponent to pick up that ball and to allow his wing players in there to hope to keep it dirty, hope they can get a ground ball for him. So the film does a pretty good job. The film clip does a pretty good job of that in the memo. You guys, it's all up. It's posted on the website. You should have got an email about it, and hopefully you'll take a good long look at that. Couple mechanics issues that we've been noticing that somehow are changing, and we're not sure how they change, but we just need to get back into what we've been taught and how it's supposed to be done. We can make mechanic changes. They need to be submitted to me if you got a suggestion on the mechanic change. We own the mechanics. Of course, as always, there's always a lot of consultation on whether we change the mechanic or not. So, but what's happening is first thing mechanically is, believe it or not, and you guys can probably believe it, we're scouted a lot. The coaches, the face-off coaches, think they know per individual official when you're going to blow the whistle. All right, so take Tommy Abbott, myself, and PJ are on a game, and PJ's a Swissler. All right, so he's going to tell his face-off man every time he does a face-off, be ready because it's going to be a quick whistle. Well, they pattern us, believe it or not. They pattern us, and that's what we got to get out of. It's very clear in our mechanics that the whistle cadence is varied every time. We aren't whistling. That's in the memo. If you guys are whistling, guess what? It's only hurting the people that are doing it right. I always tell my crews, and I'm sure everybody else in the country does the same thing. If we're getting people to jump, and they're jumping on me because I'm more deliberate in varying my cadence, I'm probably going to have a talk with the crew and say, hey, somebody's whistling because these guys are going way early. All right. The intent is to put the ball down, put your hand on the sticks, and as it says in the rule book, as it says in our mechanics clinics presentation, step away, couple steps, blow the whistle. We can still be moving. But what we don't want is blowing the whistle when our head is still in the area or we're one step. So we need to do a better job varying the whistle on that face-off. The other thing is happening, and I don't know where it came from, but again, we just need to go back to what we've been taught. But we've been noticing the guy who's conducting the face-off tells the players to go down, and then he kind of disappears. And in some of the game film, you can't even see this guy. He's backing up 5-7 yards or whatever it is. I don't know. And then the off official, the helper on the face-off, is up there making adjustments or whatever on the sticks. Our mechanic is put the players down, you stay right there. The single side looks, he verbalizes, move the backhand off the line, heads out of neutral zone, whatever he sees, but he's only verbalizing it. The guy conducting the face-off, as it says in the rule book, and again, the mechanics presentations, he stays there, adjusts the sticks, any physical touching of the stick or the player, he does that, not the single side guy. Puts the ball down and then says set and blows the whistle. What's happening is the face-off guys, because of this mechanic, they're staying in position too long. They're staying in there longer than it needs to be. This face-off guy doesn't need to go anywhere. He tells him, puts his foot where he wants him to go down, and can start conducting the face-off and adjusting the sticks and get them right. There's a big difference in the people that aren't adjusting the sticks as the guy conducting the face-off and the people that are time-wise. So just to keep that in mind, our mechanic is, as is written in the rule book, when he refers to the helper doing it, there's 7 steps or something like that. There's only one reference to the helper helping through that, and that's the verbalization that we talked about. But again, the face-offs are going better. I think as a whole, Tommy does too. So, Tommy, you got anything else to add? I've come to the end.
Not really. We've been on for quite a while. The only comments we have to finish up here are I've watched a ton of games on the iPad or the computer or the TV. Watched several of them live and in person, which I still believe to be the best way to observe. But from what I've seen so far, everybody's really done a great job of being in shape. We're in a much better place than I think we've been in a few years. Guys are doing a great job. Coaches' reports have been pretty good so far that I've seen, and nobody's really sent me anything that's really glaring at this point. So I think at least that's in Division I. I don't know. I can't say the same because I don't know what the deal is for Division 2 and 3, but they're just getting started right now. So I'm really happy to see you guys doing such a good job, and I want you to just keep working hard and and doing the things that you're doing, and work on the technical aspect of it. For Division I, it's really all about presentation. It's how you make your signals to the table. It's how you stay under control and within yourself, keeping a calm demeanor and doing those types of things. The way you talk to coaches is better this year. I've seen guys back up to the cone a little bit as trail and keep focus on the field and talk to coaches so that they don't lose their marbles. It's an adrenaline sport, and I know that those guys get really excited, but the more calm we can stay when things are getting nuts, the better off we're all going to be. And I think it's important. We talked about the bench decorum and the coach's demeanor early in the season. I think it's still a little wacky. They're all starting to get into some intense times now where they realize their team's maybe not quite as good as they thought, where they're going to really be in a dogfight in some of these games because everybody else is pretty equal. You might see that escalate. So the more calm we can stay and the better we are at staying even keel, the better off we're all going to be. But so far, so good. I really think guys have done a great job so far. I want to thank you guys all for that.
All right. Thanks, Tommy. And just another special thanks to Charlie Obermeyer and U.S. Cross for providing this platform for us to do these. Again, it's the first time we've done them. I know we've had some technical difficulties. I know PJ will get the questions back to us, and hopefully it's just the person's internet speed that was the issue. So
yeah, we did.
Again,
We did get a lot of thank yous from guys who could see the clips. I did get a bunch of people that typed in that say they can see the clips fine. So I just think it's I think more than anything, it's a bandwidth issue for whoever couldn't, and we'll get that up on the presentation. Guys, thank you so much for dialing in. 270 guys dialed in this evening. I think that's a great statement about the commitment of NILOA to this process, and then we'll get all of this up on the website to be shared, and we will see you in 3 weeks.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks.
Good night, fellas.